Moments ago, Deion Sanders finally reacted to ESPN parting ways with Ryan Clark and Cam Newton, and his response has people talking. That's right, y'all. As we already saw yesterday, reports came out that ESPN had officially laid off Ryan Clark. Now, some outlets described the situation as Ryan being fired from ESPN, while other reports framed it as part of the company's larger round of layoffs. But either way you look at it, the result is the same. Ryan Clark is no longer with ESPN. And now the situation has gotten even bigger, because earlier today it was also reported that Cam Newton and several other major names connected to ESPN would be affected by the layoffs as well. So, as you can imagine, there's a lot happening behind the scenes at ESPN right now, and people across the sports media world are trying to figure out exactly what's going on. But one of the biggest stories continues to be Ryan Clark because of the way his departure reportedly unfolded. Ryan was on air when he was informed about the situation, and that alone has created a huge amount of conversation. A lot of people are asking how a network could allow one of its recognizable personalities to find out about his departure while he was actively working on television. Earlier today, Ryan Clark finally broke his silence on the situation. For those who may have missed his statement, this is what Ryan said. Sending prayers and love to all of those laid off today by ESPN. So many of you have poured your life into that company, and I know how you're feeling right now. My hope is as this door closes, another opens for you all. God bless. Now think about that for a second. Ryan could have gone online and attacked ESPN. He could have publicly complained about the way everything happened. He could have used the moment to criticize the network and the executives involved. But instead, his first public message was focused on the other people who were also affected by these layoffs. And that's why a lot of people have been showing Ryan Clark support. Because regardless of whether you personally liked his style as an analyst or agreed with everything he said on television, there's no question that he had built a significant career at ESPN. He became one of the recognizable faces of the network, and now his departure is part of a much larger story. But moments ago, Deion Sanders reacted to ESPN parting ways with both Ryan Clark and Cam Newton, and his reaction was very clear. Deion wrote, "This is one of many reasons I love this brother for life. This was arguably the best talent on the ESPN roster. How can you know who's still be there and Ryan Clark ain't? Wow. And please tell me the rumors of Cam Newton ain't true and this dude is still there." So once again, that was Deion Sanders responding to the reports surrounding ESPN laying off Ryan Clark, Cam Newton, and several other employees. And as you can see, Deion was clearly shocked by the news. And honestly, he's not the only one. A lot of people across sports media, former players, current players, coaches, and fans were surprised when they saw the reports about Ryan Clark. The fact that he reportedly found out while he was still working on air made the situation even more shocking. Because let's be honest, people understand that companies have to make business decisions. People understand that networks go through restructuring. People understand that layoffs happen, but the way you deliver that news to someone who has spent years working for your company still matters. And that's the part that continues to bother a lot of people. You can make a business decision and still treat the person involved with respect. You can let somebody know that their time with the company is ending without making them feel like they are just another piece of content for the network. Now, for the record, there is a much larger business reason behind these ESPN layoffs. According to reports, the NFL and ESPN recently completed a major deal involving the NFL network and several of its media assets. Under that agreement, ESPN reportedly received full control of the NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, and the NFL's digital platforms. In exchange, the NFL received a 10% equity stake in ESPN. And when a deal that large takes place, changes are obviously going to happen. Companies start looking at their budgets differently. They start looking at their staff, their programming, their contracts, their overhead, and how much money is being spent across different areas. So it's very possible that these layoffs are directly connected to ESPN restructuring its business after acquiring those NFL media assets. But even if that's the reason, it still doesn't answer the question of how some of these departures were handled. You can understand why ESPN would want to cut costs. You can understand why they would want to restructure. You can understand why certain salaries and positions might be reviewed. But when you're talking about somebody like Ryan Clark, who has been one of the faces of NFL coverage, people naturally want to know why the situation had to happen the way it did. And then, of course, you have the larger shift happening throughout the entire media industry. The creator economy continues to grow, and projections have suggested that the global creator economy could eventually reach somewhere between $500 billion and $600 billion. That's a massive amount of money. For years, traditional television made their money through linear television. They had massive buildings, huge production teams, expensive studios, large staffs, and all kinds of overhead expenses. But now, the entire media landscape is changing. A content creator can work from home, produce a show, distribute it across multiple platforms, and potentially reach millions of people without needing the same infrastructure that a traditional television network requires. That doesn't mean traditional television is going away overnight, but it does mean companies like ESPN are forced to look at their business model differently. A network may be asking itself, do we need this much overhead? Do we need this many employees? Do we need to spend this much money on certain programs? Can we create similar content with fewer expenses? And those are the kinds of questions that are affecting media companies all across the industry. ESPN is not the only company dealing with this. A lot of organizations that made their money through traditional television are facing similar problems. The audience is changing. The way people consume sports is changing. Advertising is changing. Streaming is changing. And the creator economy is becoming more powerful every single year.
But again, none of that changes the fact that people still expect companies to treat their employees with professionalism and respect. And that's why so many people are criticizing the way Ryan Clark found out about his departure. Nobody is saying ESPN wasn't allowed to make a business decision. The criticism is about the delivery. Imagine spending years working for a company, becoming one of its most recognizable personalities, appearing on television, building relationships with viewers, and then finding out that your time with the company is over while you're still on the job. That's why people reacted so strongly. And now, as the world continues talking about Ryan Clark, Cam Newton has become the latest major name connected to these ESPN layoffs. And once again, several other employees have reportedly been affected as well. So this situation continues to grow. And when you look at the amount of money being spent on major personalities, people naturally start comparing the layoffs to the big contracts being handed out. ESPN has invested heavily in names like Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith. These are major personalities with massive platforms, and the network clearly believes they bring significant value to the company. But at the same time, people are looking at the layoffs and asking whether the network is becoming more selective about where it spends its money. Because when you pay huge contracts to certain stars, you have to make decisions somewhere else. That's simply how the business works. And to me, one of the biggest signs that the media landscape was changing came when Shannon Sharpe was let go. Think about that. Shannon Sharpe was one of the biggest personalities in sports media. ESPN brought him over from Undisputed and made a major investment in bringing him to First Take. They clearly believed that he would bring value to the network. But eventually, the company had